I never thought I'd be here sharing something like this, but I need to get it off my chest. What started as the greatest day of my life spiraled into something I never could have imagined. Bear with me, this is going to be a long one. 6 months ago, I hit the jackpot. Literally, $18.7 million after taxes from the Powerball. I still remember staring at those numbers in disbelief, checking and rechecking until my eyes hurt. I hadn't told a soul yet, not even Melissa, my wife of 5 years. We'd been going through a rough patch lately, nothing major, but little arguments about money were becoming more frequent. She'd been increasingly vocal about wanting to move to a bigger house, complaining about our modest lifestyle compared to her friends. The night I won, Melissa was out with her girlfriends at some fancy restaurant downtown. I sat alone in our living room, ticket in hand, mind racing. Instead of immediate joy, a nagging doubt crept in. Was Melissa still with me for the right reasons? Would this money change her? Change us? I know it sounds paranoid, but those little comments she'd been making lately about her friend Jen's husband who actually made something of himself, or how she deserved better than this neighborhood, kept replaying in my mind. So I made a decision that I now realize was the beginning of the end. Instead of telling her about the win, I decided to test her loyalty. I would pretend to be in financial trouble, not drastic bankruptcy, but enough stress to see how she'd react when things got tough. Would she stand by me or reveal that my suspicions had merit? The next morning, I contacted a financial advisor and a lawyer to quietly claim my winnings and set up anonymous accounts. I told only my best friend, Mike, about the money and my ridiculous plan. He thought I was insane, but eventually agreed to help. He'd always been skeptical of Melissa anyway. Said she had dollar signs in her eyes since our first date. Dude, just be straight with her, he told me. This whole scheme is going to backfire. I should have listened to him. 2 weeks later, I started my act. I came home looking stressed. Told Melissa that my company was downsizing and I might be let go. She seemed supportive at first, rubbing my shoulders and telling me everything would be okay. But as the days passed and I continued the charade of job insecurity, her attitude shifted. The shoulder rubs stopped, the complaints increased. You know, Brian at Jessica's company is hiring. But I guess you wouldn't consider that since it's beneath your skills. She'd say with that edge in her voice that always made me feel 2 inches tall. A month into my scheme, I took it up a notch. I told Melissa I'd lost my job and that we needed to cut back on expenses significantly. That's when I saw it. A flash of something in her eyes. Disappointment? Disgust? Whatever it wasn't love or support. The fights started that night. How could you let this happen? Do you know how embarrassing this is? Jessica just bought that vacation home in the Hamptons, and I have to tell her we're cutting back on expenses? I tried to reason with her. It's temporary, Mel. We have savings. We'll get through this. Savings? She scoffed. Your idea of savings wouldn't last us 3 months in this house. I knew I should have listened to my mother. That hurt more than I expected. But in a twisted way, I was getting what I wanted, the truth. And it was only the beginning. Little did I know that Mike was about to play his part in this tragedy of my own making. And what happened next would change everything. The test began in earnest when Mike entered the picture as planned. Mike had always been charismatic, the kind of guy who could talk his way into or out of anything. That's why I chose him for this role. Plus, as my oldest friend, I trusted him completely. About 2 weeks into my unemployment, Mike started showing up at our house more frequently. He'd come over dressed impeccably in designer suits, flashing his new Rolex, which I secretly paid for, and talking loudly about his booming investment business. All part of our act. He coincidentally dropped by when Melissa was home, bringing expensive wine that he just happened to have in the car. Man, the market is on fire right now, he'd say, making sure Melissa could hear from the kitchen. Just closed another deal. 7 figures. Just like that. He, D snap his fingers and wink at me when Melissa wasn't, T looking. I watched her eyes follow him around the room, noting how she, D touch her hair more when he was around, how her laugh became higher pitched. It made me sick, but I kept telling myself I needed to see this through. Then came the dinner party at Mike's place. He, D rented a luxurious penthouse for the occasion, again, with my money, inviting several couples and, of course, us. I played my part, the dejected, unemployed husband wearing a cheap suit. Mike was the star of the show, charming everyone, but paying special attention to Melissa. I noticed them talking alone on the balcony, Mike standing just a little too close. When they came back inside, Melissa's cheeks were flushed, and she barely looked at me for the rest of the night. On the drive home, she was unusually quiet. Mike seems to be doing really well, she finally said, staring out the window. Yeah, he got lucky with some investments, I replied, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Luck has nothing to do with it, she snapped. Some men know how to seize opportunities. Others just. She didn't, finish, but she didn't, have to. The next few days, Melissa started dressing differently, more makeup, more revealing clothes, even though we weren't, going anywhere special. Then I noticed the texts. She, smiled at her phone, then quickly put it away when I entered the room. I didn't, need to check her phone to know who she was talking to. One night, I came home early from a job interview to find her on the phone in our bedroom. I don't, know, Mike. Yes, of course, they thought about it. It's complicated. He, be devastated. She saw me standing in the doorway and quickly ended the call. Just talking to Mike about a potential job opportunity for you, she said too brightly. I nodded, pretending to believe her. That night, I could barely sleep, lying next to the woman I, once trusted completely. What had started as a test was becoming a nightmare of my own creation. But the worst was yet to come. The following week, Mike called me while I was out. Dude, this has gone too far, he said, sounding genuinely upset. Melissa came on to me. Like, seriously. She suggested we meet at a hotel. She said she's been thinking about us being together. She asked if all my talk about wanting to rescue her from her situation was real. My stomach dropped. What did you say? I played along, like we planned. But man, I am telling you, stop this now. Just tell her about the money and end this stupid game before someone gets really hurt. But I was too far in. Too angry. Too determined to see just how far she would go. Set it up, I told him. The hotel meeting. I want to see it with my own eyes. Mike was silent for a long moment. You, making a mistake, bro. But it's your life. He was right, of course. But by then, I wasn't, thinking clearly anymore. All I could see was red. The day of the hotel meeting arrived. Mike had booked a suite at the Westlake Grand, one of the most expensive hotels downtown. I sat in my car across the street, watching the entrance, feeling like I was in some terrible noir film. My hands shook as I gripped a cold coffee I'd been nursing for the past hour. At 2:15 p.m., exactly as planned, Mike pulled up in his rented Maserati and handed the keys to the valet. 15 minutes later, I watched as my wife, the woman who, promised to stand by me through better or worse, walked confidently through those revolving doors. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, carrying a small overnight bag. Something inside me broke at that moment. I called Mike's cell. She's there? Yeah, man, waiting in the lobby bar. Last chance to call this off. No, I said flatly. Stick to the plan. I waited another 30 minutes, imagining them upstairs in that suite. Mike continuing our charade. Melissa believing she was about to start her new glamorous life. Then I sent the text we, agreed upon. It's time. 5 minutes later, Mike texted back. Room 1412. She's in the bathroom freshening up. Door, unlocked. I don't remember the drive to the hotel or the elevator ride up. Everything was a blur until I was standing in that luxurious suite, hearing the water running in the bathroom. Mike gave me a grim nod and slipped out quietly. When Melissa emerged, wearing nothing but a hotel robe, the look on her face was something I'll never forget. Shock, then panic, then a calculated composure. "What are you doing here?" she asked, tightening the robe around her waist. "I think that's my question," I replied, surprised at how calm I sounded. "Nice dress downstairs. Special occasion?" "This isn't what it looks like," she started, then seemed to reconsider. "Actually, you know what? This is exactly what it looks like. I am done pretending." "Pretending what? That you love me? That our marriage vows meant anything to you?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Love? Is that what you call it? Living in that cramped house, pinching pennies while my friends take European vacations? Then you lose your job and expect me to just smile and support you? For what? So we can end up in some dingy apartment because you can provide for us? For better or worse," I reminded her. "That's what you promised. Oh, grow up. This is the real world. Mike is going somewhere. He has ambition, plans. He can give me the life I deserve. And what about me? 5 years together means nothing?" She sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly looking tired. "You've always been adequate. A safe choice. But when Mike started telling me about his lifestyle, the places we could go, the people we could meet, I realized I've been settling. And I am too young to settle." "So you were just going to leave? Without even telling me?" "I was going to call you from the airport," she said, as if that made it better somehow. "Mike's taking me to his place in the Caymans for a week. I was going to tell you it's over when we got back." The casual cruelty of it stunned me. All those years, all those memories, reduced to something she could discard with a phone call from paradise. That's when I decided to change the script. "What if I told you," I said slowly, "that I am not actually broke? That in fact, I recently came into quite a lot of money?" She froze, eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" "Mike isn't rich, Melissa. Those suits? That watch? This hotel room? I paid for all of it. It was a test. A test you failed spectacularly." "A test?" Her voice rose incredulously. "You set me up? You and Mike? This whole thing was some sick game?" "Game?" I echoed. "No. I wanted the truth, and now I have it." Her expression shifted then, from anger to calculation. I could almost see the wheels turning behind her eyes. "What money are you talking about? How much?" Even then, even after everything I just witnessed, she was still thinking about the cash. It was almost impressive in its nakedness. "Enough," I said. "More than enough." And then I told her everything. About the lottery win. About my doubts. About how I enlisted Mike to help me see who she really was. I wasn't prepared for what happened next. I expected tears, maybe rage. What I got was something far more calculated. Melissa's face transformed before my eyes. The contempt vanished, replaced by a hurt expression so convincing it almost made me doubt what I just witnessed. "Almost. Baby," she whispered, stepping toward me. "I knew it was a test all along. I was playing along to teach you a lesson about trust." The audacity nearly knocked me backwards. "You expect me to believe that? Think about it," she continued, her voice honeyed now. "Would I really leave you for Mike? Your best friend? I was just trying to show you how it feels to have your trust broken." She reached for my hand. "I love you. I've always loved you." I pulled away. "Stop. Just stop. I heard everything you said. About settling for me. About the life you deserve." "I was acting," she insisted, eyes welling with tears that appeared on command. "You tricked me, so I decided to trick you back. Can you see?" For a brief, insane moment, I almost wanted to believe her. That's how good she was. But then I remembered her face when she talked about Mike taking her to the Caymans. The overnight bag, the new red dress. "We redone," I said simply. Something hardened in her expression then. The mask slipped, Fine. You want to play it this way? You set me up. You manipulated me. You lied about losing your job. You enlisted your friend to seduce me. Do you have any idea how fucked up that is? Do you have any idea how fucked up it is to abandon your husband when he's down? To jump into bed with his best friend because he has money? You pushed me into his arms. She shouted. What did you expect? You were moping around the house, telling me we might lose everything. Then Mike shows up, offering an escape. Of course I was tempted. Tempted is one thing. Planning to disappear together is another. She changed tactics again, her voice going ice cold. How much did you win? Does it matter? Of course it matters, she scoffed. Half of it is legally mine. We remarried, remember? And there it was, the final confirmation of who she really was. Not a word about our relationship, our history, the betrayal on both sides. Just the money. I think lawyers will have a field day with this, I said. Adultery, abandonment, entrapment, she countered. Emotional abuse. Tell everyone how you set me up, how you tormented me psychologically. Who do you think people will believe? The manipulative husband who created an elaborate scheme to test his wife? Or the wife who was driven into another man's arms by her husband's deception? She had a point, and she knew it. The realization must have shown on my face because she smiled for the first time since I entered the room. Here's what's going to happen, she said, sitting back on the bed. You going to leave this room and pretend this never happened. We going to go home together. You going to tell me exactly how much you won and give me access to all the accounts. And if you very lucky, I might decide to stay married to you. And if I don't, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Then I'll take everything. The money, the house, your reputation. By the time I am done, you wish you never bought that lottery ticket. I stood there, staring at this stranger wearing my wife's face, wondering how I could have been so blind for so long. Had she always been like this? Had I just refused to see it? I'll give you some time to think, she said, reaching for her phone. I need to make a call anyway. I left the hotel room in a daze, Mike waiting for me in the hallway. How did it go? He asked. About as well as could be expected, I replied numbly. She's threatening to take everything. Mike shook his head. What are you going to do? I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. I don't know. But I am not giving her a cent more than she's legally entitled to. What I didn't tell Mike was that I had one more card to play. Because while Melissa was plotting in that hotel room, thinking she held all the aces, she didn't know what I had hidden up my sleeve. You see, I hadn't just been recording our conversation as insurance. I'd been planning for this moment since the day I saw those lottery numbers. And Melissa had just walked right into my final trap. The next 3 weeks were a strange kind of cold war in our household. Melissa acted as if nothing had happened, playing the role of devoted wife with an Oscar-worthy performance. She'd cook elaborate dinners, initiate sex, and talk about our future with sickening enthusiasm. All while consulting with divorce attorneys behind my back, something I knew because I hired a private investigator to track her movements. I played along, pretending I was considering her ultimatum. Meanwhile, I was executing my own endgame. You see, 2 months before the lottery win, I'd done something that now seemed eerily prescient. We had a particularly nasty fight about money, after which I updated my will and opened a separate bank account. More importantly, I persuaded Melissa to sign a postnuptial agreement. At the time, it had seemed like a peace offering, a way to reassure her that my modest assets would be hers if anything happened to me. What she hadn't read carefully, despite having the opportunity to consult her own lawyer, was the infidelity clause I insisted on including. In the event either of us cheated, the cheating spouse would be entitled to only 10% of marital assets acquired during the marriage. The lottery win came after the postnup, and I had video evidence of her in that hotel room, planning to leave with Mike. 3 days after the hotel confrontation, my lawyer called to confirm what I suspected. The postnup was solid. Melissa had legally forfeited her claim to most of my winnings the moment she walked into that hotel with the intention of committing adultery. I waited until she lined up all her pieces on the board before showing my hand. The night she finally broached the subject of our money over dinner, I was ready. "Have you thought about what I said?" she asked, pouring more wine into my glass with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I have," I replied. "In fact, I've been doing quite a bit of thinking. And consulting." "Consulting?" I slid a folder across the table. "You might want to take a look at this." Her smile faltered as she opened it to find copies of the postnuptial agreement, with the infidelity clause highlighted in bright yellow. "This doesn't mean anything," she said, but I could see the panic rising in her eyes. "It means everything, Melissa. Especially with this." I placed my phone on the table and played the video. Crystal clear footage of her in the hotel room, confessing her plans to leave me for Mike and his supposed fortune. The color drained from her face. "You recorded me? That's illegal." "Actually, it's not. Not in this state. One-party consent, remember? And I definitely consented." She threw the papers across the table. "You manipulative bastard. You set me up from the beginning." "No, Melissa. I gave you every chance to be the person I thought you were. You chose to be this." I gestured at her, at the fury contorting her face into something ugly and unfamiliar. "No one will believe you," she hissed. "I'll tell everyone you coerced me, that you threatened me." "You can try," I said calmly. "But the video tells a different story. As does the evidence I gathered of your consultations with 3 separate divorce attorneys while playing happy wife at home." Her shoulders slumped slightly, the first genuine reaction I'd seen from her in weeks. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we divorce. You get your 10%, which is still a pretty substantial sum, and we never see each other again." She laughed bitterly. "You think you won, don't you? That you outsmarted me? This was never about winning, Melissa. Bullshit. This whole thing, the fake bankruptcy, Mike, the hotel, it was all some elaborate game to you. And for what? To prove I am a gold digger? Congratulations. You've proven that the woman you married cares about financial security. What a crime." "It wasn't about the money," I said quietly. "It was about the fact that you were ready to abandon me when I needed you most. That at the first sign of hardship, you were planning your escape." She stood up, knocking over her wine glass. "You want to talk about abandonment? What do you call what you did? You deliberately put our marriage through a stress test it was never meant to endure. You created the exact conditions to push me away, then acted shocked when I left. You just as guilty as I am." There was a terrible logic to her words that hit uncomfortably close to home. Had I created a self-fulfilling prophecy? Had my lack of trust destroyed any chance of loyalty? For a moment, I felt the certainty of my moral high ground wavering. But then I remembered her words in that hotel room. The coldness, the calculation, the complete absence of remorse until she learned about the money. "Maybe you rewrite," I conceded. "Maybe I am guilty of not trusting you. But you proved me right, didn't you?" She grabbed her keys and purse. "I want my lawyer present for any further discussions. This conversation is over." As she stormed out, I felt no triumph, no vindication. Just a hollow emptiness where love had once been. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. True to the postnup, she received just under $2 million, her 10%. She tried to fight it, of course, but the evidence was too damning. The judge had been particularly unimpressed by the recording of her threatening to ruin me if I didn't give her access to all the money. Last I heard, she moved to Miami and was dating some tech entrepreneur. I hope she found whatever it was she was looking for. As for me, I bought a modest house by the lake and donated half my winnings to various charities. Money, as it turns out, doesn't fill the void left by betrayal. But time helps, and the knowledge that, in the end, I learned an expensive but necessary truth. Sometimes the greatest lottery in life is finding out who people really are before it's too late. Thank you all for watching this story. I am trying very hard to develop my channel and create good video stories for you. Please subscribe to my channel and watch the stories.